When Sarah and I got married, it felt like the natural progression of everything we'd built together. We'd been through high school awkwardness, long-distance college calls, and countless moments of growth. By the time we stood at that altar, I thought I knew everything there was to know about her. I remember looking at her in that dress, classic, elegant, with her camera nowhere in sight for once, and thinking, this is it. This is what life is supposed to feel like. The early years were blissful. She threw herself into her photography career, building her studio from the ground up. I'd always been in awe of her passion. Watching her grow, landing projects in other states and even overseas, was like watching someone live out their dream. She was unstoppable. But it wasn't just her ambition. It was her openness that cemented our bond. She shared everything with me, her fears, her plans, her excitement over the little things. I trusted her, wholeheartedly. We built a home together, not just a house, but a place filled with laughter, shared dreams, and quiet nights. Back then, I thought we had forever. It started subtly, so much so that I didn't even recognize it for what it was at first. Sarah had always been confident, but as we got older, something shifted. She became more focused on her appearance, not in a vain way, but almost like she was chasing something. It began with her mentioning how she wanted to stay in shape, maybe try something new. She joined a gym, which I fully supported. I even joked about us becoming one of those fitness couples. But then came the friends. Younger women she met at the gym, 2 of them barely in their 20s, one a newlywed millennial. They weren't bad people, but their energy was different. Nights that used to be spent at home with a bottle of wine and a movie turned into club hopping and late-night adventures. At first I didn't mind. I figured everyone needs to blow off steam. But soon, these outings became regular, almost weekly. The Sarah I knew, the one who loved quiet evenings and deep conversations, was now someone I barely recognized. She was more distant, more preoccupied. And for the first time in our marriage, I felt like I was on the outside looking in. The argument was inevitable. I had let it simmer too long, hoping things would course correct on their own, but that night I couldn't hold it in anymore. Sarah was getting ready to go out again, slipping into a dress that was tighter and shorter than anything she used to wear. I watched her in silence for a moment before finally saying, "Do you really need to go out tonight?" She barely looked at me. "It's just a girls' night, Michael. Nothing serious." "But it's every week now, Sarah," I replied, my voice sharper than I intended. "You're married. Do you really think this is how married people live?" That got her attention. She turned to me, arms crossed, her expression a mix of annoyance and disbelief. "Are you seriously going to lecture me about this? You're being controlling." Controlling. Sarah, I'm just asking for some boundaries. You're out there with people I don't even know, doing who knows what. "Because I'm tired, Michael," she snapped. "Tired of sitting at home like an old couple while life passes me by. Is that what you want? For me to waste away?" Her words stung more than I expected. "So, I'm the problem now? I'm the reason you're out there acting like you're single?" She laughed bitterly. "You're paranoid, insecure, and trying to micromanage my life. Maybe you should look in the mirror before pointing fingers." The room felt suffocating, the distance between us widening with every word. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her, leaving me alone with a gnawing unease I couldn't shake. That night, I knew something was broken, and I wasn't sure we could fix it. That night, the unease gnawed at me until I couldn't stand it anymore. Sarah had come home late again, brushing past me with a nonchalant, "I'm tired," before heading straight to the shower. She didn't even look me in the eye. Something about her demeanor set off alarms in my head, and the words from our argument echoed back. "You're paranoid, insecure." I sat there, trying to push the thoughts away, but the doubt was relentless. Finally, I did something I never thought I'd do. I took her phone. My hands shook as I unlocked it. I hated myself for this invasion of privacy, but I needed answers. It didn't take long to find them. A group chat with her gym friends caught my eye. Fit and fierce. I opened it, scrolling through messages filled with crude jokes and flirty banter. And then, there it was. A message from Sarah, time-stamped that very night. As soon as I saw him, I didn't care anymore. I'm too beautiful to be faithful. Let me live a little. My stomach turned. Every word stabbed deeper. She wasn't just stepping out on our marriage. She was proud of it, laughing with her friends about what she'd done. The messages confirmed everything I feared. She cheated, and she didn't regret it. I sat there for what felt like hours, the phone heavy in my hands, my world crumbling around me. 20 years of trust, of love, of building a life together, reduced to this. Betrayal didn't just hurt, it hollowed me out. And the worst part? I realized she didn't see our life as a gift. To her, it was a burden she was finally shedding. I waited for her to come home that night, my mind racing with everything I'd read. The words from the group chat played on a loop in my head. I'm too beautiful to be faithful. It made my blood boil every time I thought about it. When she walked through the door, she barely glanced at me, mumbling something about being exhausted and heading straight for the shower. The scent of alcohol and something that wasn't her perfume lingered as she passed. "Sarah, stop," I said firmly, blocking her path. She froze for a moment, then turned to face me, annoyance flashing in her eyes. "What now, Michael?" She sighed, arms crossed. I stared at her, every ounce of betrayal I felt bubbling to the surface. I know what you've been doing." Her expression shifted just for a split second, but it was enough. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, but her voice wavered. "Don't lie to me, Sarah," I snapped. "I saw your messages. I know about your little group chat. I know about the guy. And I know what you think of me, of us. That I'm some kind of prison keeping you from living your so-called best life." Her face went pale. "You had no right to go through my phone. And you had no right to destroy our marriage," I shot back, my voice rising. "All these years, all the love and trust I gave you, you threw it away for what? A night of cheap thrills?" She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. Instead, she crumbled, sinking to the floor in tears. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she sobbed. I don't know. I was stupid, okay?" I stared at her, the woman I thought I knew, now a stranger before me. "Stupid doesn't cut it, Sarah. You didn't just hurt me. You destroyed everything we built. And now you'll have to live with the consequences." Her crying turned to wailing, but I couldn't bring myself to feel pity. I walked away, leaving her on the floor, and started packing her things. The person I married was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize, and there was no going back. The next morning, the house felt eerily quiet. Sarah hadn't spoken to me since the confrontation, and I hadn't gone out of my way to speak to her either. But I knew this couldn't drag on. The decision was already made. She was sitting on the couch, staring blankly at her phone when I came into the room. A suitcase sat by the door, packed with her essentials. "It's time," I said, my voice cold but steady. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide and tear-streaked. "Michael, please, let's talk about this. I'll change, I swear. Just don't do this." I shook my head, my resolve unshaken. "Sarah, this isn't something you can fix with promises. You made your choices, and now you have to face the consequences. I can't live like this, not after what you've done." She stood up, her hands trembling. "But we've been together for 20 years. You can't just throw that away." "You threw it away," I shot back, my voice sharper than I intended. "Every lie, every betrayal. You made it clear how little this marriage meant to you." Her shoulders slumped, and she looked at the floor. For a moment, I thought she might fight back, but instead, she just whispered, "Where am I supposed to go?" I gestured to the suitcase by the door. "I've already called an Uber. It'll take you to your mom's place." She stared at me, her lips trembling as if she wanted to say something more, but she didn't. Instead, she walked over to the suitcase, picked it up, and headed for the door. Before she left, she turned back to me one last time, her voice barely audible. "I'm sorry, Michael, for everything." I didn't respond. I couldn't. I just stood there as she walked out, closing the door behind her. The silence that followed was deafening, but it also felt like the first breath of freedom I'd taken in years. It was over, and there was no turning back. The retaliation started almost immediately after she left. At first, it was small. Texts and calls late at night, messages filled with a mix of apologies and accusations. One night she'd beg for forgiveness, claiming she made a mistake. And the next, she'd lash out, blaming me for everything that went wrong in our marriage. I didn't respond to a single one. I couldn't engage. I wouldn't give her that satisfaction. Then the texts turned into threats. "You've ruined my life, Michael," one read. Another, "You'll regret this. You'll see." I brushed it off, thinking it was just her anger talking, but then things escalated. One night, I checked the security footage from the camera outside my house and saw her car parked across the street at 3 a.m. She didn't get out or approach the house, but the sight of her just sitting there in the dark sent a chill down my spine. She also made the divorce proceedings unbearable. Instead of trying to negotiate reasonably, she and her lawyer demanded outrageous settlements. Money I knew she didn't need but was asking for just to spite me. She wanted to drain me, to make my life as hard as possible, even though she was the one at fault. Thankfully, my lawyer was prepared. We documented everything: the threats, the late-night stalking, even her unreasonable demands. It was all added to the pile of evidence that painted her as someone unstable and unwilling to move on. Through it all, I stayed calm, refusing to let her see how much her actions affected me. I wasn't going to play her game. But inside, the anger simmered. Every text, every late-night stunt, every courtroom stunt, it all reminded me of how far she had fallen and how much I had lost. This wasn't the woman I married. This was someone bitter and desperate, lashing out because she couldn't handle the consequences of her choices. And while it hurt to see her like that, it only strengthened my resolve to see this through to the end. From the moment I filed for divorce, I knew I couldn't afford to go into this unprepared. Sarah was unpredictable now, driven by anger and bitterness, and I had to protect myself. My lawyer, a sharp and methodical man, assured me we had the upper hand. "We'll make sure this goes your way," he said confidently. I clung to those words like a lifeline. The first step was securing my finances. Over the years, I'd been careful with money, building a solid savings account. But Sarah didn't know just how much I had or where it all was. My lawyer helped me move a significant portion into safe, inaccessible accounts. I couldn't hide everything, of course, but what we managed to protect gave me peace of mind. Next, we focused on Sarah's assets. Her photography career had been lucrative, and she had her own nest egg. With the evidence I had, her cheating, the group chat messages, her complete lack of remorse, I wasn't just seeking a fair split. I was aiming for compensation. We filed for her to cover my legal fees and requested a lump sum instead of alimony. I wasn't interested in dragging this out any longer than necessary. Her harassment became another key piece of our case. The late-night texts, threats, and even the footage of her parked outside my house. All of it painted a clear picture of her erratic behavior. It wasn't just about the betrayal anymore. It was about her inability to handle the fallout. The courtroom was colder than I expected, not just in temperature, but in atmosphere. Sarah sat across from me, looking composed, though I could see the tension in her jaw. Her lawyer had a stack of papers in front of him, but I wasn't worried. My lawyer had prepared me for this moment, and I knew we were ready. The judge, an older man with a no-nonsense demeanor, wasted no time getting to the heart of the matter. Sarah's lawyer opened by painting her as a victim, a woman who had given the best years of her life to a marriage that had stifled her. He demanded an outrageous settlement, claiming she was entitled to a significant portion of my savings, a monthly alimony payment, and even some of my assets. I could barely keep my expression neutral, but my lawyer remained calm, letting them dig their own hole. When it was our turn, he didn't hold back. He started with the evidence of Sarah's infidelity, the group chat messages, her own admissions, and even the timeline of her actions. The judge's expression hardened as he read through the transcripts. Then came the evidence of her harassment. My lawyer presented the threatening texts, the late-night car surveillance, and even the aggressive behavior she displayed during our attempts to negotiate. Every piece of evidence painted a picture of a person who had not only betrayed her marriage but also behaved recklessly in its aftermath. Sarah's composure cracked as the judge began questioning her. "You admit to cheating on your husband?" he asked, his voice stern. She nodded, barely whispering, yes. "And you believe you're entitled to financial compensation after your actions?" he continued. She faltered, trying to explain herself, but the judge cut her off. "Actions have consequences, Mrs. Carter." In the end, the ruling was swift and decisive. Sarah was left with far less than she'd hoped for. She had to pay my legal fees and provide a lump sum settlement to me, an ironic twist given her initial demands. She was allowed to keep her car and a small portion of her savings, but the rest was off the table. As the gavel struck, signaling the end of the case, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. It wasn't just about the money or the victory in court. It was about closure. Sarah looked at me as we left the courtroom, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place. Regret, anger, maybe both. But I didn't care. Walking out of that courtroom felt surreal. The weight of months of stress, betrayal, and anger seemed to lift with each step. I had won, but it wasn't just about the legal victory. It was about reclaiming my life. Sarah was no longer a part of it, and for the first time in years, I felt free. The aftermath was messy, as I expected. Sarah called me the night after the ruling, her voice slurred, likely from drinking. She rambled about how unfair it all was, how I had ruined her life, and how everything felt meaningless now. I listened in silence, not because I cared, but because I wanted to hear how far she'd fallen. When she started crying and begging me to take her back, I hung up without a word. I didn't owe her anything, not anymore. The weeks that followed were quiet, too quiet, honestly. After years of sharing a home, routines, and memories, the emptiness was deafening. But I knew that this was part of moving on, sitting with the silence and learning to rebuild from it. I spent my time focusing on myself. I ran more, picked up new hobbies, and even started reconnecting with old friends. It felt like rediscovering pieces of myself that had been lost during the marriage. As for Sarah, I heard bits and pieces through mutual acquaintances. She sold her car, likely to cover some of her expenses, and moved back in with her mother. Her business, once thriving, began to falter. Clients drifted away, and she struggled to maintain her usual high-end lifestyle. Part of me felt a pang of pity, but it was quickly replaced by a sense of justice. She made her choices, and now she had to live with them. One day, I received a final text from her. It was long, emotional, and filled with apologies. She admitted she'd taken me for granted, that she never realized how much she was losing until it was gone. I read it twice before deleting it. I wasn't interested in her guilt or her regrets. I had my own life to focus on now, a life that didn't include her. The aftermath wasn't easy, but it was worth it. I had faced betrayal, heartbreak, and months of chaos, and I came out stronger on the other side. Sarah's chapter in my life was closed, and for the first time in a long time, I was ready to write my own future.